been working on Hurricane Ian flood claims for the last 6 days. This is my first year working for CNC, and it's been a great experience. I've had so much support and so much training through so many different people at the company. If there's one person who can't help me right away, they'll get me to somebody who can, and that's been the main reason why I've wanted to stick with CNC this year, is because of the amount of support that they've provided, and they're really helping me excel.
I have been an adjuster since 2017. CNC was actually the first company that gave me a shot, and I've been thriving in the industry ever since. Everything with CNC has been amazing, from the level of support to communication with even your lowest ranked employee at CNC to some of upper management are willing to talk to you and help you out. Everyone's just trying to get the job done as a team.
First and foremost, welcome to the 2024 CNC Connect Conference. It's been 5 years since our last conference, and it's great to see everybody. For those that don't know me, my name is Court Fowler, President of CNC, and again, I'm happy everybody's here.
Hey everybody, Murphy Buggs here with CNC. I'm the Property Training Manager. We're here at CNC Connect 2024. We've had some great guests. We've had some breakout sessions on the flood and the property side, getting ready to start our general sessions this afternoon. So we're really looking forward to that. There's been a lot of CE credits that's been offered, and great exhibitors with great vendors that we've partnered with for this conference and in future endeavors throughout our claims handling process.
Hi, my name is Craig Kepner. I'm a new independent adjuster. It's been a fantastic experience. Really, the sponsors, the leadership here, the knowledge that I've been able to pick up, but then really especially really connecting with the other new adjusters.
The speakers have been fantastic. We got a chance to see a lot of people that we would never see, from the insurance commissioner of Alabama, to Hal, the weather guy.
The favorite part, well, it has to be, getting to see everybody. I know with COVID, there weren't very many opportunities, and I love to make new friends and see some of the faces behind those phone calls that I've been having here for about the last year or so.
The conference was awesome. It was well put together, very well organized, and the conference would mean nothing without the people. So the people that were here were awesome as well. All of the classes were very informative. It was easy flow from one classroom to the next, and the information that we got was very pertinent to what we do every day.
So the CNC Connect really, brought everybody together. Just like Mr. Fowler said, it's about connect. And the connection that we made at this conference is really gonna go beyond this past 3 days.
We just wrapped up day 3 of our conference, CNC Connect 2024. We had a fantastic conference. Today was our certification day, where we did a lot of carrier-specific certifications. It went great, went fantastic. Want to do a big thank you to all of our sponsors, obviously all of our attendees, everybody that made this possible. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms as you look to stay connected with us throughout 2024. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Claims Corner. Again, we are still barreling through Season 5, but we are coming to the end of the season. The penultimate episode, second to last episode in layman's terms is basically all that is. So I just like saying that word. So again, episode 9, we are doing 10 episodes this season. This episode title today is Structural Damage from Expansion of Flooring. That's a longer episode title. You will see once we get into the content how extremely interesting this is. As we're talking through this and how we were going to do it with our guest that we will intro here in a few minutes, we were trying to decide how do we want to get this across in a demonstration type of way. And really, when we did it on site, it was very eye-opening. It was eye-opening. So we've got it split into 2 segments today. We'll talk about a couple different flooring types, from concrete to engineered to real hardwood, LVP, things like that. So you'll see all of those things today. But before we get into the episode, we obviously have some housekeeping things that we do every 2 weeks when we do our Claims Corner. So again, want you guys to always stay notified of when we go live, when we post new content. Stay connected with us. That's kind of our buzzword for the year. If you were at our conference back in January, it was CNC Connect, right? So we want to stay connected with everybody throughout 2024 and beyond. So the way you can do that is subscribing to our YouTube channel, CNC, Catastrophe, and National Claims. Hit the bell icon. Make sure you are subscribed, obviously. Like the video, like any videos that you watch of ours. So that way it changes your YouTube algorithm and you see more of our things in case you aren't subscribed. So again, because we're constantly pushing out new social media, platform types things and new content as well, from the training aspect, Claims Corner, New Adjuster podcast, all of that is available on our social media channels as well as our YouTube channel. So, again, coming to the end of the season, but what we are not coming to the end of is training classes. Training goes on all year. We are dominating the off-season and dominating the season. We are 2 days away from the beginning of hurricane season. So technically we're 48 hours still in the off season, but we're going to be in season here shortly. So we have a lot of great upcoming classes that range from commercial to large loss, fire, hail, wind, property, flood. Yes. You can see all of those by going to adjustingexpectations.com/education/classes. You can also email recruiting at cnc-resource.com. Again, that is recruiting at cnc-resource.com to get more details, to get signed up, to see if you qualify for these classes, how you can get qualified if you're not, and all of those types of things. So again, a lot of great classes coming up. That is steadily going. I mean, heck, I believe there was a class today. I know there was a class yesterday that we were both doing downstairs as well, an in-person class. So
always ongoing.
Yeah. Without further ado, we have teased this for a month, 2 episodes, because we go every other Thursday. We've been teasing this for 2 episodes. The CNC Customer Service Learning Plan. We have wanted our listeners, our viewers, our adjusters to enroll in that. We've announced these prizes that you see here on the table with us. The Stuffed CNC Shark, the CNC Handle Yeti, CNC and New Adjuster Podcast stickers that have the QR codes on the back that will direct you to those pages. That CNC Foam Shark, the mouth, where it's basically a phone holder for your desk. Really cool little things. Pop socket as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the drawing. Mary, if you will. This hat is also part of the drawing as well.
Yes, it is.
Has the CNC logo on the front.
Let's see who's going to be the lucky winner. I'm not even going to look.
All right. Etienne Rosa Coney. Rosa Coney, last name, first name, Etienne. You are the winner. Congratulations. We will do our due diligence to reach out to you to get you these things. We'll also have something special in there as well from CNC. It's a bit of a surprise. It's kind of a message from us. So, great job on the drawing. I know we were excited about that. I hope that you're excited about getting these things, and I hope you're watching live today. If not, it'll still be on YouTube, right? It'll still be on YouTube. You can watch it anytime you want. So, now we got to introduce our guests. We've done a lot of upkeep and housekeeping with CNC. Now we want to bring in our guests. Stephen Pace, Andrew Huddleston from FEC, Forensic Engineering Company. Super glad that they're joining us today. Obviously, they're in the pre-recording with us. So I'm not going to step on their toes. I'll let each of them give their own intro. Stephen, would you like to go first?
Yes. It's great to be here today. Appreciate the opportunity to come on. I'm Stephen Pace, Vice President of Forensic Engineering Company. Like I said, glad to be here. I have a background in looking at a lot of flooring over the years, background in a lot of things. Some of you may have heard me do some training in other forms, webinars and things where you couldn't see me. I have more of a face for that than I do this, so you have to look at me on here. Sorry about that, but Andrew fills in for where I leave off. But anyway, I'll let Andrew introduce himself.
Awesome.
Thank you, Stephen. You're definitely right about those good looks things. I'll take that any day. Anyway, hello, everybody. My name's Andrew Huddleston. I'm a professional engineer with Forensic Engineering Company. I'm actually out of Mobile, Alabama originally. Graduated from South Alabama in 2015. Kind of began my journey doing roadway construction during and after my college years. And that kind of started everything with understanding how things work and particularly how they fail. And that's what led me into the field of forensic engineering. So I've been doing that since about 2019, and I love it to the day, and I hope to love it in the future to come. So, and I appreciate you guys having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Stephen and Andrew. We will obviously continue to talk to them throughout our IYOW segment, which is in the middle today, and our Q&A segment at the end. But without further ado, what everybody's waiting on is the content of the episode. We will jump into part 1 of our pre-recording right now. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Claims Corner. We are back today with episode 9. We've got some fantastic guests with us today. You may have seen them before on some of our other content. My name is Murphy Buggs. Again, very appreciative that you're here. Property Training Manager. With us today is Aaron Reed from our flood training side and Mary Berry also from our property training side. I will let these gentlemen give their introductions. Go right ahead.
I'm Stephen Pace with Forensic Engineering Company, FEC, licensed professional engineer in about 25 states. Got Andrew Huddleston here today with me representing FEC as well.
Hello, everybody.
And he's also licensed in a lot of states.
17 to this day.
All right.
17, all right. There you go. Licensing is obviously big, obviously from the adjuster side too. We know that. So today's episode is called Structural Damage from the Expansion of Flooring. So we're going to jump into those today. We're going to talk about hardwood, tile, even some other floor coverings such as concrete. We'll even jump into a little bit about that too. So we're super excited to bring this episode to you today, and we look forward to getting started right now. All right, everybody, we are ready to go ahead and get started. Last one we mentioned, first one we're going to talk about today, floor covering, floor surface is concrete. So, Stephen, jump right into it.
So many flooring types these days, and so many more people doing things with concrete. I mean, they're just refinishing or doing something with concrete, staining it, stamping it, doing all the different things you can do. This right here is actually outside, but imagine this could be built onto, and then we're going to do something with the concrete to make it decorative. In this case, one thing we know about concrete, it always cracks, and it has in this case too. But that could be repaired, this fixed up, and we have some type of etching or something on this. If that gets wet, it's not going to really matter. It's not really going to cause any kind of structural damage. It's not going to really change anything. It's just going to go on as is. It's just for appearance only. So we're going to go into these other types and talk about what happens with them and what to look for when there is damage.
So no real expansion to concrete, but you're going to get cracking one way or the other, correct?
That's right. It's just its own thing on its own, and whatever we're doing with manipulating it, as long as it's done properly, as far as a floor covering, a floor surface, is just aesthetics.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I've seen some people, they'll actually have it in a kitchen and paint it, so it looks like marble, but in all reality, it's actually concrete floor. So
that's right. Yeah. It's just still the slab, and if you put water on it, if you changes in temperature inside the house or whatever, it's not gonna really change what that's doing, like we may see here in a minute
with our other flooring types. Okay.
Yeah. Are there other finishes that you can put on concrete?
There's, painting, staining. Of course, you can do some things when it is poured, when the concrete's placed. You can put stains in the concrete itself, so it's that way all the way through. So many different things, so many different products out these days to to change the appearance. Of course, you can just polish it. You could just take this and polish it and make it look all slick and nice, and you know, more economical ways than buying some type of flooring product to install.
Sure. Okay, good deal.
All right.
All right, so our next type of floor covering we're going to talk about is engineered wood flooring and LVP. Stephen, talk to us about what LVP is for the folks that don't know as well.
So LVP is a luxury vinyl plank. It's more of a composite material. It's something that's very popular these days. I've got it in my house. Some of you may have it in yours. Most of it is considered to be waterproof. Depends on the manufacturer. It's installed in different ways. Some of it's a floating floor. It's just simply clicking together along the seams, providing again, waterproof surface at times. But you're not seeing any changes in volume with these with the addition of water. When it gets wet, temperature changes, it's not going to buckle and do different things like some will. Now, one thing that we are studying, and we can talk about it more in the future, is what happens when all this gets inundated with water and we get some water underneath it. We have some mitigation issues there, and we can get into that another time for another show. But this here, as far as expansion and causing some type of damage to other components, just don't happen. It's going to be there. It's going to stand the test of time. Some pretty good, tough stuff. Then got a little small piece here of engineered wood flooring. So when I talk about it, if you don't know what it is, I always think about plywood. It's pieces of plywood almost. It's different plies in there going different directions. So when this gets wet, it's definitely going to be manipulated. It's going to cup. It's going to do different things. May delaminate between the pieces, and it may have some size changes dimensionally with it, but not enough to do actual damage to adjacent components. It's going to fail in and of itself before it causes damage to the adjacent components that are nearby as it expands. And it's just not going to expand as much as if it was a full piece, solid piece of wood.
Right.
As we'll see in a little bit.
Gotcha. And Aaron, you see that a lot too from the flood side too, right? That delaminating of wood flooring, is that correct?
Right, yeah, that's typically what we see with floodplains is, you know, that wood flooring separating like that, delaminating, you know, cupping or raising up at the seams.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you about that particular type, you know, is there something specific to installation type, you know, how much room they leave around the perimeter, for example? You know, as far as damaging other components around it, is that often due to improper installation where it's, you know, they don't leave enough room for the expansion, basically?
Correct. And, you know, I always say the best thing to do is go to the manufacturer. Is what they're recommending. They're usually providing some type of warranty with these products, no matter what product it is. If it's the LVP or this, the box is going to tell you what kind of gap, what kind of separation to leave around it for expansion and contraction. And again, for the warranty, all the different installation types, each one of these is just a little bit different. And again, even with these, if it's even with improper installation, you may be replacing the floor. The flooring product in and of itself may be damaged, but we shouldn't see damages to the wood framing or something else that's around it. It won't be able to develop enough force with its expansion. The product itself will fail before it causes structural failure in the wall with its expansion.
So it'll crumble in on itself instead of pushing out? It'll
delaminate and just essentially come apart at that point. Obviously different manufacturers, different brands, different ways that they've made it's gonna hold up differently.
Right. Gotcha.
So that's kind of a comparison of those. Here, these two laying here are just another type of LVP. Again, clicking together, floating type. So not going to cause much issues.
So even, and obviously that's your floating type, but even like the glue down type, same principles, right? Not going to expand to the point where it damages kind of the walls and the structure around it.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. We shouldn't see any issues with that. You'd just be looking at replacing that product itself from that damage.
Gotcha.
Another thing I see a lot with, several different types of wood flooring is vapor barriers, and some people even have the little foam pads under there. Does that make a difference at all one way or the other as far as how much damage it can do or absorb?
Well, the biggest problem with that is how much is if you have this waterproof product, like I said, that is waterproof, and then we get water underneath it. This here, we can soak this in water for a week, take it out, and theoretically it should be the same.
Right.
Barring fungal growth issues and things like
Sure.
that. But the product itself should remain dimensionally the same. It should have no functional damage to it. But if you, at some point, even though that seam is sealed at the ends, if it gets water underneath it, then it's not going to cause any structural damage to the structure of itself or this component. But we got water underneath it to worry about now. And like I said, that's kind of a story for another day, but something to definitely be aware of.
Yeah, so would you see any type of warping to this type of material?
Typically you won't with this.
Right.
Because there's going to be no dimensional change
Right, gotcha.
with those that are truly waterproof. But we will with the engineered, because that is truly a wood product.
Sure.
So it's going to expand and contract with changes in moisture content.
Right. Yeah, because I know waterproof is a tricky word. Sometimes people say waterproof, and in all reality, it's water resistant.
That's right.
Like our other episode, fireproof and fire resistant. There's a difference in the two. So.
Right, and I think going back to figuring out who the manufacturer is. Of course, these are little sample pieces and have it on the back. But if there's some way to find out, what they used, did they have a box left sitting in a closet somewhere where you can look on the box and see the parameters, the specifications that they had for that product.
Right.
Back when it was installed, or try to figure out the brand of it will tell you a lot on it.
I have a question too. I might be skipping ahead a little bit, but when you talk about acclimation, people talk about that when it comes to wood flooring. Is there some type of acclimation period with, LVP, engineered wood flooring? How does that work?
LVP not so much, because it's not hygroscopic. It's not absorbing moisture.
Right.
It's that's not really an issue. Engineered wood flooring, there would be, again, manufacturer recommendations, and as we'll be going to in a few minutes, the true hardwood flooring, definitely an acclimation period.
Right.
And sometimes one of the biggest issues, as an installation defect, where they didn't let it acclimate like it should.
Gotcha. Okay.
One thing we see, I know with flood claims a lot, is it's typically not clean water. A lot of times we have chemicals mixed in there and things like that. Do you see a difference with how much it expands or absorbs depending on if it's clean water versus, cat-free flood water?
I haven't, saw a difference in the type of water as far as, suspended solids in the water that's making it dirty in the first place. There may be, but I think probably overall for what we're looking at, if it's wet, it's wet. It's that's what really matters. I don't think if there is any differences in that, it's going to be small.
Right. Minimal differences.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think we would really be able to tell too much of a difference in it.
Gotcha.
So anyway, we can go on and talk about some ceramic tile.
Let's do that.
All right.
All right. Great first segment there as we're talking about structural damage that could or could not happen from different types of flooring. As we touched on there in part one, concrete, not really going to have any volumetric changes, not going to change in the aspect of causing structural damage. Engineered wood flooring, LVP, is more or less going to fail in and of itself, not going to do a whole lot of volumetric change, which kind of brings us into our IYOW segment of the week, our In Your Own Words segment. So before we get started with our guest, this IYOW segment is brought to you by Blue Leopard Agency, a marketing agency that's redefining success in the digital age. Visit blueleopardagency.com today to discover how they can tailor a marketing plan that's as unique as your brand. Don't wait. Take the first step toward marketing success right now. So, two guests today, calls for two questions. Yeah. First one for Stephen. Question for you is there a certain amount of water that makes volumetric change happen?
You're going to have more of a an equilibrium state there with shrink and swell, but it's going to be different by species, the species of the wood, the type of tree that it is.
Yeah.
So a wood species that's more dense will actually change more, and it will change at a different percent moisture content. So I guess the answer is there's no specific, exact moisture content that you can come up with just in general. It depends on the species of where you'll see those changes.
Okay, all right. Good to know. I never thought about it that way. Andrew, your question, your IEL question of the week is, does volumetric change reach a max at some point? I mean, clearly it does, right? Floors won't just expand to where it takes up the whole block. But, I mean, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely, it would. So volumetric change in flooring due to the moisture would reach a maximum. It kind of occurs due to the wood's ability to absorb moisture, as Stephen was just saying. It's from the environment. It could be from moisture in the air. It could also be from direct moisture contact. And at some point, it's going to reach a state called fiber saturation point. And below that is where you're going to see the change in the dimensions and the change of the volume of the wood. So as it does absorb the moisture, the fibers in there do swell, and it changes in its dimensions and overall volume. And that's where you get the warping, the cupping, and the buckling. And as we'll kind of like move through, like you're talking about before, as the structural damage will occur. So this moisture content level, like at the fiber saturation point, it's really like the approximation, maybe 25 to 30%, just from stuff I've read. Please don't quote me on the exact number on that one. But above that, there's really not a lot of change in the swelling of the fibers. So you can also get after that, you'll get deterioration of the wood and things like that. But as far as the maximum, once it reaches that fiber saturation point, that should be about the limit of where you'll see the change in the volume of the wood.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good 2 questions. Great 2 answers. Right. Answers were way better than questions. I'll say that much. We will now jump into part 2. And before we do, we obviously did not know we were all wearing the same exact clothes that we did on the day of the pre-recording. I promise we're not running down the street to film this real quick and running back when that whip transition hits. Anyway, we all thought that was funny within the first part. So let's jump into part 2 of the episode.
All right, now we got ceramic floor tile to look at. Very, very common. Has some different issues along the way that we all see. Some of the same things that we talked about before that's required. We have to have perimeter expansion joints. We have to mix the thin set correctly and apply it correctly when we're placing the tile, or we can have some issues. Here we have a trowel, and it has grooves in it where they're troweling it down. A lot of times it's said, somebody may talk about the water that got in the grooves underneath the tile. It's not supposed to have grooves in it if it's mixed properly. Thin set's not water soluble in the first place. That's why we have it in showers or maybe even in outdoor settings. So it's not just going to turn back to liquid because water touches it. So a lot of times we have installation issues in that. But again, thinking back to changes volumetrically in temperature or water touching this, temperature changes to this floor system, is it going to expand enough to cause structural damage to the walls? Can it move enough and hold together without coming apart to move the walls? So this is a very brittle material, and we'll show just how brittle it is.
Yeah, and again, just a disclaimer, obviously we're wearing safety glasses. Please don't try this at home. We are here with professionals. Go ahead, Mary.
All right.
And you see, it's that easy. It's that easy. It came apart. We're not going to do that with any other of these materials. We didn't even try it. It's going to hold together. So very easily these can get broken. You can even drop something heavy on the floor sometimes and have issues with it. But what we're going to look at next is when these expand, you sometimes have tinting or you end up with hollow sounding tiles out in it. that tells you that it's no longer bonded. It's the thin set has debonded from the substrate, or the thin set has debonded from the back side of the tile, and it's made it more susceptible to pop up. So what we're going to do now is apply some pressure to this and see just how much it may move. You want to come around and get on one of these. We'll try to. So in this case, as we applied pressure, it popped loose. In this case, it debonded from the back of the tile, so the thin set debonded from the back of the tile. But you can see the grooves that are often talked about in the thin set. So we only have about half the amount of contact area because the grooves are in there. If this was installed properly, the right consistency, that would have been all the way across the back. So in this case, the failure came from the back of the tile, but sometimes it can be where it's from the substrate. So again, we may hear concerns of water underneath the tile, water in these grooves, but these grooves in a properly installed tile aren't supposed to be there. But the main thing we're talking about today, again, this is not going to expand and stay intact to move a wall. To move wood framing, it's gonna break. So it's just a brittle material, and that's what's gonna happen. So we can have a lot of different issues with it, installation issues. So many times, especially in Florida, it seems like we'll have a change in the weather, a drastic temperature drop in November, and people hear the tiles popping in the night.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. Same thing is what's happened here.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying too. When you got these grooves in there, in all reality, it's only making half the contact, when in all reality, should be making 100% contact through. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So in this case, if we would have, over time on this section of tile would have probably became debonded in areas and had a hollow sound to it that we could check in different ways with a chain drag or a golf ball or anything, different ways we have of listening. So we know that those areas are more susceptible to tint or to crack.
Yeah.
If it's installed incorrectly like this and there's water damage, is that gonna cause the tile to be damaged more, or how does that change if it's not installed correctly?
One of the biggest things, if the water's in here, since the thin set's not water soluble, it's just going to be water in there instead of air.
Okay.
The biggest thing with water may be the tile itself reacts to more changes in temperature than it does with moisture. So maybe the water heater has a leak, ruptures, whatever happens, and that hot water gets on this tile, then you're going to see more of an issue with that due to the temperature of the water more than the fact that it's just water.
Yeah.
Okay.
But really more than the volume of water, more or less the
Right.
temperature causes the
Correct.
difference. Okay. Didn't think about it that way.
So you're going to see more volumetric changes with that. It's not really going to be a big difference in the moisture content of the tile. It's
Right.
it's not absorbing moisture and changing in size so much as wood will, which we'll see next.
Right, so it really shows a lot of the characteristics as the LVP and the engineered wood flooring, that it's not so much going to expand, it's just going to fail in and of itself.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Just the product's going to fail. So you just have to worry about these components. We're not having to worry about looking at structural damage
Right.
to the walls or to some type of structural framing
Right.
that's adjacent to it.
Right, gotcha.
Now, is that just for ceramic tile, or does that same, it's not going to expand, does that same thing carry over to tile types that are more porous, like maybe a clay tile or something like that?
It's going to, each one has their own characteristics. Some of them, especially if it's more of a natural tile, you have to worry about exposure to different things and the oxidation, and there's more absorption on some. So it may be exacerbated because it has the ability to absorb more water, and that may facilitate, larger changes in temperature in the tile itself. So there's different characteristics of different, certainly all kinds of different tiles that you can buy, and each one has their own characteristics. But overall, we're basically talking about the same thing, same issues.
All right, so let's jump over to wood flooring next. All right, so what we've all been waiting for is the wood flooring, the expansion of it. We know it happens. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, this is the fun part, the amazing part. So all of these other floors we've talked about, they're going to undergo temperature changes and changes with differences in moisture in them as you add water to it, and really not going to cause any issues to the surrounding structural components. This right here is a true wood floor. These are nailed down to a piece of plywood underneath, simulating over a crawl space or something. It could be over sleepers. We can talk about that more in a minute. But the most amazing part is there's actually a formula where we can look at the size of these boards, the changes in moisture, and calculate how much change in volume we should expect. Now that'd be boring to come derive all that formula, so we just look at the real thing here. We have 2 slabs of the same type of wood flooring. This one here was submerged in water on Friday and taken out of water today on Tuesday. So we have soaked it that long, took it out, so it's going to have reached saturation point at that time. This other has not been soaked. The difference, they were the exact same size. The difference over here is 1 inch. It's expanded 1 inch. It was 36 1/4 inch. It's actually just a little over an inch. It was 36 1/4, so just on that wide of a piece. So you can imagine in an entire room. Now that expansion is transversely, it's perpendicular to the grain. Long ways along the plank, it'll only be about 1/100th of the expansion that you'll see in the width. So just the same, these 2 pieces here, this one has not been soaked in water. This one was. This one was soaked until just a few minutes ago, so it's going to be reaching saturation point of the wood. Obviously, no wood's ever perfectly dry, so this one's still going to have some moisture content, but not enough to change anything. So we're going to see the change in the size of that. Trying to get it where you can see it better with the camera. Look down right here and see the difference. It's at least 1/4 of an inch on that one. Some of them may be a little different depending on the grain and what's going on. This was originally a typical 3/4 inch thick plank, which is what all these are, 2 1/4 inch wide. And along the length, it's the same. It's the same. It's no difference. I know it's hard to see on there. So, what does that mean? What's going on? Well, this, as it expands, it may relieve itself through buckling of the members. And we can see this around on this edge compared to the other one. It's buckled up here and it's buckled again right here, where it's raised a little bit higher down here and right here. So it's relieved itself some there. It would have done more if it was constrained. If it had, say, a member over here, if it was up against a wall, it would meet resistance, and at that point it would cause it to buckle more. But at some point, the forces would overtake this, and if this was like the seal plate, it could be pushed out. I've actually saw these where we have a concrete slab and we have the J-hooks going down into the slab. I've actually saw it where these push out the side of the slab. Pretty dramatic. But you can imagine, just with this 36-inch slab, it's expanded an inch, again unconstrained. But you can imagine what that would do on a room that's 20 feet wide, 20 feet across.
Sure. Starts to multiply, yeah.
Right. How soon could you mitigate something like this to stop it from expanding or bulging and doing those things?
Well, depending on, if it's soaked in water and it's not been there very long, it's going to expand pretty quickly, and there's not much you can do about it at that point. One thing we have to look at too, once this starts to dry, once it's exposed to water, and we would see this on this one as we leave it out in a few days to dry, we may have some dish out or some crowning and some different things in this, and we won't go into all of that today, but we see where there's water introduced just to the surface, then we dry it out, then just that surface is going to expand, and then that's when we can see it cup. Of course, we see a whole lot of different issues. It can be dish out with refinishing of these floors when they're dealing with a different acclimation and things. And again, back to the acclimation, these need to be installed correctly in the first place. They needed just as anything else, but these are so important because of these changes. As you can see, the volume changes so much. We have to be sure that we allow them to acclimate to the conditions where they will be installed at. Otherwise, again, you can have a lot of issues within the floor system. But the main point of everything that we've talked about is that this can actually cause structural damage. We've just got a floor product. We don't think that much about it. It's just flooring, but it's actually caused damage to the structural components. So what do we look for? We look for separations in the corners. If we have this type of floor, do we have walls that on each side of this, the walls seem to be leaning in at the top? So that way we know what to look for in that. We also, if we have a house that the thermostat has been turned off for an extended period of time, or the house has been without power after a cat event, we may have issues from excess moisture absorbed from there in that.
So talking about water damage, I guess how much water is too much water in order to make it do something to this effect? I mean, obviously a drip on it is not going to do it. Submerging is one thing, but where's kind of that fine line there?
I think the fine line would be to the point that this surface is covered with water, the entire floor, larger plumbing leak, where a large section of this floor in a room is inundated with water, where it covers the entire surface to allow it to become saturated. Because it's going to reach a point it's not going to. It can only absorb so much water, and then that's it. But when we're getting on up 25, 30% and going up through there, we're going to see these pretty large volumetric changes.
So like in a flood loss, I mean, it could be 2 inches or 2 feet. As long as it's submerged, probably going to see those effects. Yeah,
that's right.
You mentioned a couple times about the worst damage happening whenever this wood flooring is constrained. Do you see a difference, like this floor behind us is on a sleeper system instead of being installed directly on the slab? Do you see a difference with elevated buildings or sleeper systems versus installed directly on a slab?
I've actually solved structural damage both ways. Again, in here we have a floor that we know is installed on a sleeper system because we have a part that's exposed. This floor here, if it was inundated with water, we would be expecting the forces to go that way and that way, not longitudinally. So as this expands, we might even look on this door here to see displacement. We could look at, again, in the corners, see separations, especially in the bottom, in the lower portions of the walls. If we have buckled places out here where those forces have relieved themselves, we know that there's been expansion because of that, because it's had to relieve itself there. But did it relieve itself before it pushed the wall and moved the wall?
All right, everybody. Well, that wraps us up here from on-site at our training house in Mobile, Alabama. Huge thank you to Andrew and Stephen from FEC. They drove from roughly 5 hours away to be here for us. So again, we couldn't do it without you. We're super thankful that you're here. and obviously to Aaron and Mary for joining us as well, and Jeremiah for doing our filming on site. Let's kick it back to ourselves in the office to do our Q&A segment and then our official outro of episode 9. Awesome. Fantastic episode at our training house in Mobile. Big thanks again to Stephen and Andrew for being on site with us, taking time out of their day. Stephen is not local by any stretch. Andrew is a little bit more local. I wouldn't say he's down the street, but he's a lot more local than Stephen. So again, taking time out of their very busy days. Obviously, they have a business to attend to with FEC that they're constant. Stephen, I actually believe you're on the road right now. Is that right?
I am several states away.
Yeah. Andrew's just taking a day off. Is that what he's doing? I'm kidding.
Somebody has to do the work.
That's right.
Somebody got to do it.
That's right. No, I'm messing with you. So, again, huge thanks to y'all. We do want to do our Q&A. So we had a couple questions sent in outside of our YouTube channel and our YouTube comment section. So 2 questions. Mary, do you want to take those?
I will ask those questions. So the first question is, does fresh or salt water make a difference in expansion of wood flooring?
It does. It has some effect on it. It has an effect on the absorption. Osmosis is basically, if we kept everything light in this, we could go much deeper into the science of how it works. But osmosis is the transfer of water through a membrane, so through the cell wall. So these cells in the wood are actually absorbing the water. Water's going in the cells. That's what's causing the expansion. So that is affected. That osmosis is affected by the salt water. There's been some studies done on it. Interestingly though, it depends on which wood it is. It could go one way or the other. It could affect it one way or the other. Obviously, it's going to also affect the acid content in the wood and affect the strength of it. And the thing I would always caution on that, when you have salt waters, you're going to have corrosion of the fasteners as well. So the salt water does make a big difference on the properties of the wood and what's going on.
Yeah. Okay.
The science behind it is very intriguing. Osmosis. I remember that from about 4th or 5th grade. We learned about that.
I just watched the movie Osmosis Jones. So.
See?
Not just
But yeah, so that's our first question. So our second question is, and it's kind of a 2-part question, is there any way to determine how long water has set on a surface that has expansion damage? And does one material show over another this type of damage?
So as far as the duration, we do a lot of different internal studies on doing some standardized testing to look and see how long water's been there based on the amount of staining and different things. Obviously, we probably wouldn't see deterioration as far as rot. We wouldn't think it'd be a very long time. For very short duration, that's when we may see the cupping, because the water was only on the top. So the top ended up expanding and doing the cupping, and more so than the bottom, and being a more uniform expansion. So that would be one of the things that we would look at as far as the duration, and again the stains and a lot of other different things. As far as the different materials, again, the species of the wood, we intentionally in this episode, we went through a lot of different flooring types to lead us to where we were, and showing that all of these other different flooring types won't actually cause structural damage to a building or to a residence. And in this case, with the hardwood flooring expansion, it can, and the things to look for in that. So kind of led up to that, went through a lot of other things, but those other material types, you're just not even going to see very much expansion at all. But then in the hardwood flooring, the material type will make a difference. Again, you can go in depth. There's a lot of formulas and different things that we could present on this and look at. It gets boring mighty quick. Nobody really wants to sit around and listen to an engineer put up equations and different things where we study and we can actually calculate and predict some of these things based on the species of wood, based on the moisture content and the duration.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a very good answer, and it's kind of another question that came in that ties into that. Do you know what type of wood is the most resistant to water damage, since we were talking about wood flooring?
You know that I don't know which species of hardwood. There's so many types.
Yeah.
You know, you can bring in things from other countries and everything else, some exotic different hardwood. So I'm not sure on that, knowing that we will see a greater change with a higher wood density. Then I would, you would certainly have to keep that in mind looking at the density of it. There are some research that you can do and Google that and look at it. I don't have it in front of me at this time, but good question.
Sometimes it's always, or well, I say sometimes it's always. Sometimes it's okay to say, I don't know.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with saying that, because then you can always learn something new. That kind of ties back into training. We feel strongly about that anyway. If you don't know something, ask. Somebody else may know.
Go research it. Like you said, you can always research different types of flooring, hardwood flooring, and it could be something very exotic and expensive that is, way more resistant than what we've been accustomed to.
Yeah. And like I said,
might be something I couldn't afford, so I didn't know. But maybe we could. I didn't let Andrew answer.
Andrew might got it.
He may have it in his house.
I don't have that type of flooring here. I have some of that beautiful tile stuff installed over here.
Okay, I think that's a bit more water resistant right there.
There you go. Well, just don't let Mary hit it with a hammer like she did in that episode.
Exactly.
Still feeling the effects.
Keep me out of your home.
No, I'm just kidding. So again, Stephen, Andrew, we greatly appreciate you joining us. Coming in town, Stephen, Andrew, I believe across the bay, right? Is that right?
Yes.
For our lower Alabama folks. Yeah, again, thank you for being on site to film that with us. Obviously, that took some time out in the heat. It's not cool by any means. I think it's close to 90 today. So, again, we appreciate you being here to film that and then to be on this episode as well to do the stream with us. Huge thank you to you. Obviously, a big thank you to our listeners, folks that have tuned in, folks that will listen and will watch over time as this gets posted on YouTube. All of our folks behind the scene, Jeremiah, again, for being on the site filming, putting this whole broadcast together. Blue Leopard Agency for everything they do regarding our drawings and everything else as far as the production and making sure we get questions and answers. There's a lot of people that pitch in and make this a really good product. So, again, thank you to our guests. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to everybody that you don't see on camera. For our CNC adjusters, before we go, there will be a link dropped in the chat in order to get your CNC points for watching this live broadcast. If you are not on CNC's roster already, you can go to adjustingexpectations.com, fill out an application. That will direct you through RDL/HR. Get you an application filled out so that way you're on the roster and you are able to get CNC points. The more CNC points you have, the more your commission goes up whenever you work claims. So it does behoove you to do that. So, again, second to last episode. Season is coming to a close. We will see you again in 2 weeks. Really exciting episode. We actually filmed it yesterday. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It will be a total surprise. It is different. It is something you will not want to miss as we wrap up Season 5. So, again, thank you to everybody, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.